Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Council Sessions. I'm Dave Cottingham here with my co-host from the Mandalorian podcast, Cyber Ren. How are you doing, Martin?
Hello, Vizsla. How is it going? It's been a while. I'm starting to get some rust on me, man. We don't talk as much anymore.
Well, Disney's not putting out any TV shows right now.
No. Oh, man.
Not putting out hardly anything right now, which is a shame. But good to see you again. Good to talk to you again.
Good to be here.
So we have had some breaking news recently. One that I feel like a lot of fans have been waiting for, have been screaming for in a sense.
Yeah.
And that is that Dave Filoni is now, here's the thing though, Lucasfilm hasn't actually come out and said this yet. So these are the trades that are, Hollywood Reporter, Variety. There's reporting going on that Dave Filoni is now been elevated to Chief Creative Officer of Lucasfilm. So a lot of people were like, well, wait a minute, wasn't he that already? Not necessarily. He was Executive Vice President of Creative before. So it's definitely a promotion when you become a C-level in a company, which is what a chief officer is. Mm-hmm. And as Chief Creative Officer, I think, well, for one, Martin, what about the news? Just what's your reaction to that news?
Kind of like what he says, like, wait a sec, wasn't he already up there? Like, I thought he was close to the top. So does this put him like second in command of all of Star Wars? How can we describe the job? Because once I know what it is, then I can have a better answer for you as to how I feel about it. Because I already thought he was way up there. I thought he was Lucas's, clone, his right-hand man. Mm-hmm. But since Lucas doesn't own anything anymore, I still thought Dave Filoni had a lot more control. He was like just under Dave Favreau maybe, but yeah. I mean, it's whatever it is.
John Favreau, right?
The fact that Filoni is climbing the ladder and he's getting to the top of creation, I'm happy. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if he's moving up to the top to be in more control of what we get as fans, then I'm happy for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid discussion because so when he was just an executive vice president, basically, or a chief, a creative executive, I think is what it maybe was. But he might actually, I take that back. He might not have been vice president, but he was a creative executive, meaning he had say in a lot of things that Lucasfilm did, but only really when he was asked. What do you want to do? What do you want to create?
Yeah.
And of course, he brought his friend John Favreau in, and they went in and talked about creating this Mandalorian show and this universe around the time of the New Republic. Mm-hmm. And of course, Kathleen Kennedy, who is the president of Lucasfilm, is the one that has to okay that or sign off on that, right? Because she has to sign off on any project that Lucasfilm creates, Star Wars creates.
Right.
So when he goes off and starts creating the Mandalorian and the Mandoverse, that's pretty much all he's working on. He's not worried about Andor because he's not involved in that. He's not worried about what's the other show? Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Deborah Chow was doing that one.
Okay.
So he's not creatively involved in those projects. He's only worried about what he's creating. Well, now, as Chief Creative Officer of Lucasfilm, technically he's now in charge of all creative.
Okay.
So there isn't a project that I believe what will happen now is there isn't a project now that comes up that he will not have a voice into or sign off on. So if you or I say we worked for Lucasfilm as just creative producers or creative executives, if Martin and I said, you know what, let's make a show about young Obi-Wan training Anakin. And we would go to Filoni and say, here's our idea. Can we do this? And it'd be up to him to say yes or no, because he now has, as a chief creative officer, he now has to look at every story now, every piece of production that Lucasfilm wants to create and start deciding on, is this Star Wars? Is this what we want fans to experience? Not, again, and he's been a preacher of, it's not necessarily about fan service. It's truly about, what's the story? How does this fit into the Star Wars universe? Does it stand behind the ideals of what George had established, all those years ago?
Right.
So a lot of people felt like, at least what I've read, is a lot of people felt like Kathleen Kennedy is not really a creative mind. She's a brilliant producer. Produced Jaws and Indiana Jones and all these movies for Spielberg, and she's a great producer, getting people together, getting stuff created.
Yeah. But
she's not necessarily the greatest creative person. Like, can she come up with the ideas and the stories and how it fits and everything? I think a lot of people believe that's Filoni. So does that kind of make sense on
makes
what that
more
means?
sense? Yeah, for sure. So my question then to go with that is, because he is now in charge of whether ideas get green lit or not, that probably takes away from him getting to create and write himself now, right? Like, he's not going to be able to create as much because he's probably going to be a lot busier.
That is very true. And I think what, we've heard him say this when we were covering The Bad Batch in some interviews, is that, The Bad Batch was his idea, like his show, what he wanted to do continuing the Clone Wars. But if you notice, he's not fully involved in that show. He said he's been wanting to train that next group of animators and creators, just like George trained him and the group of people that made the Clone Wars. Because it's not all the same people. He wants, to be that next George Lucas, in a sense, where he's training the next generation of people that are going to take over once people like him and Kathleen and John and these guys kind of move on. So that's what I think is happening now, is that he's going to start being that Lucas person, that persona that is trying to instill these ideals of what Star Wars means, what type of stories that we're trying to leave and get people to be a part of, so that when they start moving up like he did in the company and become leaders of the business and leaders of Star Wars, that they're still keeping the continuity of what Star Wars was when George was there. Okay. I don't know anybody better. Kathleen, I feel like, again, was a good choice as president, as to lead the company. But as well as I do, she hasn't been in Star Wars this whole time. Like, through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, she wasn't around for that.
Yeah.
And, she can say she was a big fan. Sure, I'm sure she was. But we know Filoni was a fan, this whole time. So
yeah, totally.
I'm ultimately thankful, to be honest, that George even found Filoni all those years ago, and that he stuck around this whole time, because he truly has embraced what George had done before, and you can see that he inspires others like Deborah Chow, like Jon Favreau, to really, and Bryce Dallas Howard, to really embrace what it is and tell those stories the way that they're meant to be told. And you're right, though. He will have to probably step back a little bit on stuff that he wants to create. He might be able to probably just focus on, there's no way he's going to give like Ahsoka to somebody else. He's going to stick with the ones that I think he really wants to do. But the thing about this chief creative officer, I believe, in a way, is that, again, being in charge of everything, that means you're looking at the movies, the novels, the comics.
That's a lot.
You're kind of figuring out if all of this is fitting. You're not probably over managing or, nitpicking and things like that, but you're definitely hearing what the stories are and deciding on whether or not it works with the direction and the the strategy that you have for the company, kind of thing, right? So now the story group, which came together when Disney bought Lucasfilm, and they were meant to. I think a lot of people thought that that's what the story group was going to do, was kind of pick and choose what stories were being told. But we kind of found out that that's not what they do. They really just make sure continuity works, and that, if this person, does something in this comic, that they can't do it in this book because that's not where they were at this point in time, so they're trying to make sure that lines up. They're not really choosing what creative stories go out there. That's what Dave Filoni's going to do.
I would say that's a good direction for Star Wars, though, because if he is truly honoring what Lucas created and got going and got all of us fans to originally fall in love with, if Filoni can continue that tradition forward, the legacy, keeping that up, I think Star Wars only has mountains to climb. It's just going up.
I agree. And I think a lot of fans, thankfully, agree with that as well. I think I think it's hard pressed to find people that aren't happy with Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
I mean, you might not look. You may not like, you might not like the Bad Batch. You might not like some of the episodes of the Bad Batch. You may not like every episode of Ahsoka or Book of Boba Fett that came out, but you definitely can't sit there and say it's not Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
So anyway, so that's what sets up this episode of Council Sessions. Really, what we wanted to kind of dive into a little bit is not, and this might be a separate conversation, but I don't really want to talk about what we think Filoni should do or Filoni should focus on. I'm more interested in having a little fun and saying, all right, Martin, you're Chief Creative Officer.
What would I do?
Of Lucasfilm. What are you doing? How are you running the creative aspect of Lucasfilm? So you've got people like Favreau and, again, Deborah Chow or Bryce Dallas Howard. You got these creators and these directors coming to you with these ideas and these shows.
Right.
These writers like Charles Soule and E.K. Johnston or something like that. And they're coming to you and they're saying, I want to write these books. I want to write these comics.
Yeah.
How are you running, like what stories are you wanting to focus on? Is there certain styles you want to, what are you thinking about when these people are coming to you and what stories that Lucasfilm should make? I know it's a broad question, but it's a
big one. Yeah, yes. It's a big question. The first thing, because when you presented this to me earlier in the day, I was thinking about it. What would be the first thing that I want to tackle? And I think what I concluded in my own mind is dealing with the chronology of things. Because I think what has happened, I think where fans have kind of faded off, where we've lost a little bit of steam with Star Wars going forward, is all this new stuff that has come out in these last couple of years. It's jumped all over the timeline. We're way in the future. We're in the past. This takes place between these two movies. This takes place before that movie. This is and I think a lot of people got confused. Like you and me, the super fans might be able to follow. But even I know myself, I've had to ask you quite a few times, where exactly does this take place? Mm-hmm. And you would explain it, and we'd figure it out. But I think the lot more casual fans or the general fans, they were a lot more confused than us. And I think that's where we started to lose some people, because there's like, why are we going back 100 years? Like I think that is what needs to be focused on first, is we need to look at the chronology of things and decide, do we pick a starting point and just tell this story and go forward with it? Don't jump around all over the place and expect people to be able to keep up with this, because I think that's what one of the bigger problems was. So along with that decision is, where do we start and where do we continue forward with, kind of thing. So do you say, all right, we're going to start at the end of Return of the Jedi, and from there, let's continue telling the stories. Of course, you're going to catch up to the new sequel trilogy, so that might confuse things. Do we start after the sequel trilogy and just go completely new all the way? Or do we go way back in time, 100,000 years, and let's start from the beginning of the Jedi? And let's go forward from there. And but what I'm saying is let's just stop jumping all over the timeline. I think that is problem number one to smooth out.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So do you have an idea? You don't have an idea of where you would want to start? Or so are you saying though, you wouldn't want to do stories from multiple eras? Or you can, but you just have to go in chronological order?
Yeah, see, and this is where I was still trying to figure out the details. I was hoping maybe you and me could iron out as we talk. So I, as the fan that I am, I still want to see stories from all over. I want to see the beginning. I want to see Luke's story continue. I want to see the new stuff with Rey that's coming forward. But I don't like the jumping all over the place. So I really don't. I haven't been able to figure out where I would start if I was in control. Because I think the sequel movies is what really puts a wrench in my plan. Because if the sequel movies weren't here, I would start after Return of the Jedi. Because how many of us want to see Luke's story? What did he do after that? We're getting pieces of it. We in the guest spots that he showed up on The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. We all got insanely excited. Like, we went nuts when we saw Luke appear. And I think that just tells me that there is still so much interest and passion to Luke's story, and we want to know more. So I think that would be, for me, the point to start from. Let's continue his journey. I don't care about Mark Hamill being too old. We'll recast him. We've got things in place now that could give us a decent enough Luke Skywalker that I would be satisfied with. Continuous story. I mean, there's plenty of time between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. Anyway, there's a lot of years there that we could fill in. And I mean, maybe that's kind of a point. You if you catch up to that point, maybe you then skip it and then you continue on with Rey's story. I don't know. But me personally, my own heart is Luke Skywalker. That's where it all began. Let's continue that journey.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually, what I've been thinking about over the last couple of days, ever since this announcement happened, I think where I'm landing is actually the opposite of where you're at.
You're going to go way back in time, I'm guessing.
No. I'm not just talking about time. I'm talking about, and honestly, like right now it's interesting because with Dave coming in right now, we had a year of strikes happening, right? So there was a writer's strike, the actors struck, and now everything seems like it's done and ready for production again. So you almost had this break in Hollywood where,
pretty much, yeah.
Right, because there's no new content coming out right now or getting made, so things are about to start maybe rolling back out that was frozen. So it's almost like a reset right now. It feels like a reset.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And Filoni coming in, kind of changing that. Now you do have things that are in the hopper, right? You have like Andor season 2, and you have the Acolyte and the Skeleton Crew show, the last season of Bad Batch. You have things that have to come. But I'm almost like, once those stories come out and get shown to everybody, if you're not setting up for any kind of sequel or anything like that, to me, it almost feels like now's the time, if any, if we're just going to close the book on this era of Star Wars.
Okay.
Meaning that the Skywalker saga is now truly complete. Because I think where I would like to go with it is I would like to actually get away from the characters we know about.
Okay.
And start creating all new stories, all new characters.
Completely fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, because I agree with you. Luke, Leia, Han, they are very popular. I mean, they're the most iconic Star Wars characters, period.
Yeah.
Along with Darth Vader and Yoda and Tarkin and Palpatine. But they are iconic mainly to our generation.
That's right. Yep.
Like my daughter doesn't care about those characters really.
Yeah.
She cares about Ahsoka and Rey and Finn and Poe and Anakin, honestly, right now because of Ahsoka. Like, you know, Anakin coming back in has been kind of popular but those aren't our characters from our childhood. So I think still that there's this lingering connection to the first generation of Star Wars fans that really keep wanting these things and wanting these stories. And I get it. I think I agree with you. Like seeing Luke and Mandalorian was out of mind. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's time. I actually kind of think it's time to, you know, somewhat close the book on these characters, at least in the live action sense. Can there be comic books and novels? Probably. I think that's where maybe those can live on. Mm-hmm. But I think if you really want to start capturing audiences again and being more consistent with the storytelling, like you said, because I agree, I don't know if I would jump around eras as much. So my first thought going into this thing, I would say, you know, because I do like how they laid out the new eras, right? You have Dawn of the Jedi, New Jedi Order, and Old Republic. I would still, especially, well, just the newer ones that we don't have much in. I would focus on that. Dawn of the Jedi, Old Republic, New Jedi Order. The ones we haven't gone in yet, I think we High Republic probably a little bit more. I would go there, and I would create all new stories, all new characters. But here's the thing: what I would do. This might be a little weird. I mean, of course, I'm more focused. I think I'm more like Filoni in a sense where I do like the Jedi aspect of it, the Force. Yeah. I think I would want to do those stories still, especially maybe like more Sith stories and the birth of the Sith and how that conflict got going.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff we don't know about, for sure.
100%. Yeah, I think we need to go there. But you know what I would like to see is, and I don't know if this will work, but let's think of what's one of your favorite movies? There's nothing to do with Star Wars.
Nothing to do with Star Wars. Favorite movie?
Like one of your, just recently, just like what's a good movie you've seen recently?
Jeez, I haven't seen any good ones lately. I saw The Marvels was awful, and we just saw Napoleon last night. That was boring.
Okay.
Yeah. I have to look. Let me think. What was the last good movie I saw? Man.
Well, I'll just think. Let's just say Avatar.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Avatar. Why not?
Did you see Way of Water, the last Avatar movie?
I love the Avatar stuff. So
okay, let's just say Avatar.
Right.
You know, and this is kind of tough, a little bit tough, but because it is fantasy already. Well, no, it's not fantasy. It's like Earth based or whatever. It's our world based, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But
I'm just having a look to
think of Avatar, like so. A director like James Cameron,
okay,
or Christopher Nolan, or whoever has this great idea and story they want to tell.
Okay,
they want to make. I would look for those types of stories, but set them in Star Wars. So think of like, or actually think, you know, even though it was a bad movie, but think of Napoleon. Just that story, whatever story that is, think of that in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
So like this normal, not normal, normal is kind of a relative word, but it's like stories that, like, okay, I'll tell you one movie that I love that I've been actually seeing a lot of tweets on for some reason, or TikToks of. Did you ever see Rounders with Matt Damon?
Long time. That's the card playing one, right?
The poker movie.
Yeah, man, long time ago. Yeah.
So think of that movie, but but set in Star Wars with the game of Sabacc.
Interesting.
Like that.
Yeah.
I want to get in. I would want to get into those types of stories that are just story driven. Like it doesn't really matter. It's not the focus isn't in the Star Wars universe. The focus is the story. It just happens to be
in the Star Wars universe. Star Wars. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Those are if I was Filoni or not Filoni, if I was in the chief operating officer role, I would try that. I would try to bring in real world examples of, on Earth of what we have in other movie types.
Right.
I would try to find those good stories like that and just put them in the Star Wars universe.
Well, my favorite movie of all time is Braveheart. So could we do a Braveheart-like story?
Did I know that? Because that's my favorite movie of all time.
Get out of here.
Are you serious?
It is.
Braveheart is by far the best movie I've ever seen.
I can't even count how many times I've watched it, and every single time it gets me every time.
Every time.
Oh my God. Love it. It hits every emotion.
The reason, my quick story for that for me, was I went to the theaters. It was a group of it was a double date. I was in high school, and it was a double date. We went to the movie theater to see Crimson Tide. The Denzel Washington submarine movie. And we were late to get to that movie, so we were like, well, let's just go see Braveheart. I have no idea what it's about. Let's just go see it. And I sat there and was glued to this for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. I watched in awe. I was like, this is the best movie I will ever see in my life.
And it still is.
It still is.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Star Wars aside.
Yeah.
it's the greatest movie I've ever seen. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
That's the hidden reason why we get along so well. Not only just Star Wars, but that's funny. No, that's never come up before.
Yeah, that's weird.
I got Braveheart posters all around my theater. I'll show you. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's man.
Anyway,
yeah,
but like that in the Star Wars universe.
Could you imagine? Like
awesome.
What a story that would be. I mean, it's a tragic ending, but it's
no, but that's what makes it great.
That's what makes it so good. Yeah, but,
like the whole time I'm watching that, I'm like, he's gonna get out. He's gonna, because I didn't know the story of William Wallace.
Yeah.
But I'm like, when he dies, it's like, what? How is this a good ending? But then, anyway,
and it wasn't even an easy death. I mean, it was a long, painful death.
Torture.
Man. Oh man. Okay,
but
so
that would be incredible. On a planet in Star Wars in that revolution. It's like, that's it.
So your idea that would be part of the Star Wars stories idea, like where Rogue One and Solo fell into, right? Because these are just individual stories that are just in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Someone wants some, yeah. Hey, buddy.
Cyber. No, that's right. I think, but still build on those. I mean, you can, depending on the story, you can still make a trilogy out of it or a series, but yeah, you're right though. Individual stories, like they don't necessarily have to be connected. Like I wouldn't go there because I think some of it can connect, but you don't really have to go there, because I think what Star Wars needs to do is start trying to broaden its audience. Right. And really go after people that just aren't Star Wars fans, that just aren't sci-fi fans. Like they're story fans. You know what I mean? They
steer a little clear from the photon torpedoes and laser cannons and show them that there's story here and not just special effects.
That's exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Rogue One resonates with me a lot because it's a war movie. It's a straight up war movie, a spy movie,
Yeah. Yeah. I can get behind that idea too. I like that idea as, like you said, for storytelling, because you can look at a lot of the recent stuff, and I think a lot of the casual fans maybe don't understand the story that was there. It's a deeply ingrained story, but it might not appeal to a general audience if they don't know the history of what we're looking at.
Right.
So that is a good point. What was the other thing you were mentioning I wanted to touch on too? You were saying, oh, dang it, my mind is blanking.
It was we don't want to Braveheart tangent too much.
Yeah. I had a point before that I was going to touch on that you were talking about.
About the eras, or
yeah, just keep talking. I'll see if it comes around again.
Yes, I think the thing about it is the connectivity. To be honest, is the one thing I'm struggling with, because I do like how right now that Star Wars is trying to connect these stories. Especially the Mandoverse and Andor, because I love seeing Mon Mothma in Andor, and then Mon Mothma show up in Ahsoka, because you want to see how one relates to the other and has an impact on the other. But
if they could create what Marvel did with the Infinity Saga, if they could create that type of connection, I'm all for it. I mean,
but would you need that in everything that's created, or just specific things?
Yeah,
what I mean?
Yeah,
that's where I think,
because the way Marvel did it, every single thing was connected.
Everything.
So I don't know how Star Wars pulled out.
And now they're running into a problem because it doesn't seem like it's connected.
Yeah, because they have too many different creative people in charge of each individual project.
Right.
And so that's where Dave Filoni could maybe clean that up a little bit, if he still wanted to go that route. But now I remember the point I wanted to make. You were talking about making complete clean slate, everything new characters, new stories, things that we don't know anything about. Where I like that idea from is, if you look at the newer stuff, and the sequels is a good example of it, that for the first time in Star Wars history, that stuff divided fans, because a lot of fans expected something and wanted something, and when Star Wars didn't deliver what they thought they should get, it divided fans. And now you've got two sides, light side, dark side, fighting over their Star Wars, laying claim to it, saying, no, it should be this way. No, I like this way. And it's caused a big problem. And I think that's been another big issue that maybe needs to be fixed by Filoni in his new position. Because you take your idea of creating something brand new, now nobody can argue, nobody can fight, because we don't know anything about these new properties and these new characters. And you can say, well, you can't lay claim to that. You can't say, oh, this is what happened before, it should go this way. No, you can't. It's brand new. So it could also clean slate and put everybody, all the fans, on a fresh board again, and we're all together enjoying new stuff coming.
And that's why I truly think, The Acolyte is going to be a huge hit. I think people are going to embrace that, because it's all new characters, new era. I think the High Republic book series has been well received, but the problem is you don't have everybody out there that reads Star Wars novels.
Yeah.
So you're missing a big piece of the audience. Man, when that thing hits, I'm telling you, I think that one is going to be, and it probably may end up being my favorite series.
Right.
Because it's going to be so new, and you're right, there is no expectation. The expectation is this well written? Is it well acted? Is the story there? You're not worrying about if this character is going to do what I want them to do, because this is how I know that character to be.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Now, would you, if we're talking about clean slate, would you also get rid of all the known Star Wars tropes, all the known things, and start to inject new ways of telling Star Wars stories?
Like how like
I'm trying to think of an example. Like, you just expect lightsabers and everything. You just expect the Force to be a certain way. Like, just things that are so well known and so ingrained. Yes. Like, would you like to also start fresh and tell different perspectives of these things?
Yes, I think that's kind of where I was going with like the Rounders example was.
Yeah.
Let's do a story that does not involve lightsabers or blasters or holocrons or Death Stars and planet destroying weapons. It's like,
because how many times have we seen that? Oh, here's the next planet destroyer, right?
Let's just get down to the everyday living creatures of Star Wars. I think one example that's coming out, I think, is that Star Wars Outlaws movie
a video game
that's coming out.
Yeah.
You're just the normal person wandering the galaxy trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. I love doing that. Who knows what story is going to be there, but and there's there's going to be a little bit of familiarity to that because it takes place during the original trilogy. So,
yeah.
But just imagine if they took that story and put it in the Old Republic, where no one knows anything about it. I mean, that would be more of an exploration for me to sit down at that game and go, okay, I've never seen the galaxy in this era.
Yeah.
I'm going to just dive in. That would be incredible. And I think we're going to get there at some point because I think they're going to start making games in other eras. But that's kind of where I would focus on. I think I love the legacy characters. I love the original trilogy. I love the prequels. But I'm, as a fan and as what I would do as the direction of Lucasfilm, I would take this reset a little bit and go in a different direction and really focus on new stories that are just good stories and not worrying about, like you said, the flashy lightsabers and things like that. I want some of that. I mean, I think you can do some of that. You just find the eras that it works in and the stories that it works in, and like you can do, I keep going back to the Rounders example. I mean, if you had that in the Star Wars universe, and that's not saying you can't come across Jedi for some reason, but it's just not the focus,
The
police in that, I'm sure, will still have blasters, but it's, but that's what makes it Star Wars.
Yeah, there's going to have to be some sense of familiarity, or else it's going to be too different. So, yeah, I hear you there. But the other point you just mentioned while you were talking too is about having the Death Star and the next Star Destroyer and the next Planet Killer. I think the problem there is they just kept trying to go bigger and bigger. Okay, we've got the Death Star. Well, now we've got Planet Killer, which can shoot out multiple lasers and kill multiple planets at once. Like you can't keep going bigger, and it's the same problem that superhero stories have taken. They went from the superheroes were good and they were telling an individual story. This hero is trying to save his town or his city,
right?
But then now we got to save the country. Now we got to save the world. Now we got to save the universe. Now we got to save the multiverse. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And you lose people with that.
Yeah.
Because we can't comprehend that. We can't relate to it. It's too big. It's too grand. Bring it back down. When you tell a good superhero story, it's when he's grounded and he or she is grounded and they're dealing with something personal at home, taking care of their town or whatever. That becomes something you can relate to and go, oh man, yeah, imagine that. And you feel more for the characters. And I think Star Wars, like you're saying, should do the same thing. Bring it back down. Let us get to know the people at a ground level and put ourselves in these characters' shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that bad guy is running our town. If I was there, I'd be finding myself a blaster and I'd be sneaking around and taking his guys out. It's grounded. And
yes,
yeah.
And I think, and part of me feels like that's kind of why maybe Mandalorian was so popular, right? Because
brought it back down.
It kind of got grounded, a little part of the galaxy where this Din Djarin was doing his work. In the first season, there was really nothing familiar, besides being Star Wars. Like there weren't these legacy characters popping up and things like that. And I think that's why it was so popular. It was the everyday person trying to make a living, and you're right. I think that's that got attractive, that got interesting from people.
Yeah.
But it was familiar because you still had Bounty Hunter and you still had a Mandalorian, something that people knew. But that is interesting. I like that. Yeah. Is there any certain genres that you would try
to bring in Star Wars?
Yeah. Like, would you at all think about doing a comedy?
Star Wars well, I struggle with comedy because I'm very finicky when it comes to comedy. Like I laugh at situational comedy. I don't like jokes being written and spoken in dialogue to try to force you to laugh. Like I hate forced humor. If things just happen because it's funny, then that's what I enjoy. And Star Wars was good at that. That's kind of why The Last Jedi really bugs me, because they just tried to be funny. They forced in stupid jokes like Luke squeezing the boob to get green milk. I'm like, that's not funny to me. Like I want things to just happen naturally and that situational humor. So I think comedy in Star Wars, man, I don't know. I don't know if I want to laugh at Star Wars because I'm so passionate about it.
Right.
And I love the characters. I love the galaxy. I love what's going on. I don't want to laugh at it. I want to put myself in it and be part of the rebellion, part of the war, part of the whatever. I can't. That's not a funny thing for me. I don't think I want to laugh at Star Wars. I want my serious stories. I want to feel for the characters and get a tear in my eye when something bad happens. That's
interesting. You say that. That the way you say that, like, I don't want to laugh at Star Wars. That's an interesting way of putting it, because I kind of, I feel the same. I probably feel the same way, because I remember when, there was an animated series coming out called Star Wars Detours.
I saw the trailer. Yeah.
It was done by the Robot Chicken guys, Seth Green and Matthew Senrich. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing pieces of that at Celebration and thinking, wow, I didn't know I wanted that, but I do want that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it was animated. So animation is, that's one way of doing it, where you can kind of get away with that, and you don't have to pay attention to that if you don't want to see that.
True.
But if you wanted to do like a sitcom, like a Friends in Star Wars kind of thing, like, would you? I don't know. I don't. For one, I don't think that would work, because you're kind of getting out of the way of what Star Wars means. Two
guys, a Wookiee and a cantina.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I agree with you. I don't think the comedy genre is maybe the right way to go, but I will say maybe the horror genre could be something.
I was thinking thriller. You kind of picked up on my vibe. Thriller, not so much horror. I don't think need to see somebody running around, hacking and slashing, and a bloodfest but I think a thriller, because thrillers I find much more engaging, because they still have you on the edge of your seat and you're still like, oh my God, what is going to happen next? And you get jump scares. I think a thriller in Star Wars could be really good, for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I actually think that would be good.
Yeah.
So, because you can kind of keep the sense of Star Wars, because you're kind of, it's more or less just like the whodunit or the what's next kind of thing, because that's why I think the suspense kind of action, I guess espionage type. That's what we got in Andor, right? You got kind of the. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of thriller-ish in a sense, I guess.
Tense. Intensity, tense action. Yeah,
suspense, drama. It's probably more of a suspense drama than a thriller. But
let me throw one at you, because a lot of the ire that Star Wars has gotten is when, like, especially in the prequels, the big love story with Anakin and Padme. Romance is a genre. Would you want to have a romantic story?
I don't know if you've caught up with Inside the Force with us, but a couple episodes ago, the title was "Where's the Love?"
Yeah, I actually haven't listened to that one yet. Yeah,
because what me and Hannah talked about was, I felt like since the prequels, I felt like Star Wars hasn't given us a love story.
No, there's just been flirtation.
Yeah, well, it's flirtation or family driven, concepts, right?
Yeah,
like it's not just Rey and Finn. If it was anything there, but it was like it's Rey, Finn, Chewbacca. It's that family, and then you have Mandalorian and that family he built with Greef and Cara and Bo-Katan, and so there's never been this At least I don't remember much. There hasn't really been this hint of romance. And I think that was part of Star Wars. I mean, the original trilogy, Han and Leia really drove the romance.
That's a powerful love story there through the entire trilogy, man. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think the Anakin Padme was heartbreaking to see that, what happened with that. Because Padme became such a popular character based on, what happened with her and the loss of her twins. But I definitely feel like that is missing. And I think that is a big part of Star Wars, is definitely the family aspect and hope. I think that's what Dave has always preached and George has always preached. But George is the one that always put that romance in there. There was romance in there. And I think that there's, now, is it a rom-com? Probably not, but it's definitely, romance is part of the story. Yes, I believe
for sure.
that.
I mean, when I said flirtations, like we only had hints of it. I mean, there was hints of Mando himself, when he helped that village out with the blue shrimp. That woman wanted him to stay. She was falling for him. Here's my hero saving my town. She's falling in love with him. People were like, "Oh, is Cara Dune and Mando going to get together? They're like two warriors." Woo, Nothing. Like so even in Obi-Wan was that what was her name? The lady that got shot helping him escape. Like, was there a hint of something there possibly? So that's as far as it's gone for us recently.
Yeah, I would love to see a fan put out a kind of a digital fan poster of a Clone Wars Obi-Wan hugging a Duchess Satine live action. Have you seen that?
Live action? No.
Yeah, well, it was a recreation of a live action shot of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, Clone Wars Obi-Wan, and he's hugging a Duchess Satine, and the Satine was the likeness of Cate Blanchett. Yeah. And I was like, I want to see that. I want to see that story.
Yeah, I would too.
Like, that would be incredible.
Because I think the love stories that we've had in Star Wars have been good ones. They haven't been. I mean, yes, the prequel one with Anakin, I think they rushed it, but you saw that story stretched out a lot better in the Clone Wars series.
Yes.
If you only look at the movies, yes, they rushed it, but again, that's a powerful love story. Han and Leia, powerful love story. I mean, we've had them. They're good. Star Wars can do romance really well.
And I will mention probably two of my favorite, if not two of what I think are probably my top 5 novels. Lost Stars, which is a romance novel basically by Claudia Gray. Okay. And Dark Disciple with Quinlan Voss and Asajj Ventress.
And that's my favorite one.
That's a love story.
Oh, well, yeah.
And that was incredible by Christy Golden. I mean, it's just two incredible stories that not a lot of people know about because they're novels.
Yeah. Oh, man. Dark Disciple, go get the audiobook. It's the best thing I've ever heard. It really is. But
agreed.
Okay, so we got thriller, we got romance, saying no to pure comedy. We already have the sci-fi. We already have mostly action. Mm-hmm. Drama, I guess, is probably already in there. So what other genres do we really... mobster movies are kind of a genre.
Crime. But that kind of... Yeah, that kind of fall... Yeah, crime would probably... Yeah, if it's like more about... Yeah, mobsters. I mean, like an underground show would kind of be under that, or if you just followed like a police force or something like that, like investigative, like murders, like a CSI, like in the Star Wars world. I think that would be pretty cool.
Which we kind of saw in Mando when he took that one job on that weird planet.
Yeah.
Where the robots were killing people and they had to go and investigate it. I was into it.
That's exactly right. Yes. That's exactly right. Yeah.
It was like a buddy cop movie.
Yes. Yes.
So
someone said, I think Hannah said that. Hannah said she wants to see a buddy show with Finn and Poe, like going policing the galaxy and stuff like that. Like, that would be pretty fun. That would be pretty fun.
Why not? So I think this is a great creative idea. Like, just insert genres into Star Wars and let it tell a Star Wars story with that genre as your pattern, your quilt, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The basis of everything. So
yeah. I think that just opens it up to possibly attracting more fans that are because there's a lot of people that just like those type of movies or those types of shows.
Yeah.
I know people that just watch the CSI the shows. Like they're all just in the crime drama.
Right.
So if there was one set in Star Wars, I'm pretty sure they would watch it.
Yeah.
So
I think a good example of this is the TV show Firefly, which I don't think, have you seen Firefly? I don't think you've seen it yet.
I've seen pieces of it.
Yeah. That a lot of people steer clear of it because, sci-fi. I'm not a I don't like spaceships and all that. But I made those people, I lent out my box set of Firefly DVDs to so many people that aren't sci-fi fans. Every single one of them fell in love with it because story, characters, and good writing. And they didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care that the backdrop was sci-fi anymore. The characters were so powerful that everybody fell in love with it. And Firefly, it's the greatest thing ever. So that's what Star Wars could do if they have that good of a writing inserted into the Star Wars world. You got to, like you said with Rogue One, you have a success. It's just just the way it is. So yeah.
All right. What else? Anything else you wanted to add to this conversation?
About what we've been talking about. Yeah, I think your first question was what would we do if we were in Filoni's position, and we really only answered kind of what would we start with and where would we go. So we both had two very different answers, right?
Yeah.
Which was pretty good. So like I had said, number one, I would organize things better on the timeline so it's chronological and we just got to figure out where we would go. You brought up connecting. Do we want to have everything connected and tell a cohesive story with all these different things? And we came up with separate stories, bringing in new genres in the Star Wars world. Mm-hmm. So I think all these are really, really ideas. See, Filoni needs to hire us now as
definitely is as creative consultants. That's what
creative consultants. There you go.
That's what he needs. Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good point you brought up. Is that's where we would start. Like, how is it? Yeah. Is it too premature to say where we would want to go with it, or how would we want this to? How would we want to leave Lucasfilm once our career is over?
Like what state would we like to leave it in?
Yeah, like what's our creative goal? What's our strategy to leave it for the next generation of creatives that are going to be in Lucasfilm? Like George, when George decided to sell it to Disney, which I'm pretty sure people can make the argument or not. I'm pretty sure that was a difficult decision to make because it's no longer yours.
Yeah.
You are basically retiring and saying, okay, Kathleen Kennedy, who I've put as president, and Dave Filoni, who is in here as a creative person, and all these other people, Carrie Beck, and all these people that are kind of in this development part of the company. Like, I'm confident that they can take over and create Star Wars like I did.
Yeah.
Now, you can say Disney came in and did their thing, and some things people don't like, and some people like what they, whatever. But there were certain people he had in mind that he wanted to, shepherd the next generation of storytelling with Lucasfilm. Yeah. So I think for me to answer this, I think if I'll go first is I think I would just want to mimic what George did. I think my goal would be to, which I think is what Dave is trying to do, is find those next generation of creators that I can trust, that I can mold, and that I can instill the ideals of Star Wars and of what George did. I think it's just incredibly important that you find those people, because if you leave without having those people in place, there's just no telling what will happen to Star Wars. And I don't know if that'll end up being a good thing.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because with Lucas, you've seen the stories out there when he has watched all this new stuff coming out. He's gone on record saying, I wouldn't have done that. And that's not the direction I was thinking or whatever. So I can't even imagine what it feels like to see your property that you created going off in a direction that you didn't have plans for. That would be hard. That would be really, really hard to watch and just be thinking, I shouldn't have sold. But I think I'm in line with you. In if we did this until we were 85 years old and we're too tired, let's retire. Have we trained the right people behind us that we can faithfully trust are going to continue the legacy on? That should be probably the exact same goal that Lucas did with Filoni and Favreau. Favreau, I think, should be included in a lot of these conversations because he has really done a lot for Star Wars too.
Right.
So yeah, have people following in your legacy that are basically clones of you that have the same passion that you have. For sure. I think I would want to leave Star Wars in a state that it can still continue. Like, there is sometimes when they tend to write themselves in a corner. Well, how do we get out of this now? You know, which you can kind of say is what happened with the sequel movies. Like they put these stories 40 years ahead of everything that we know, and they basically said, this is all how it all ends. So whatever comes before it has to kind of work with how we ended it already. If you want to tell a story 20 years ago, well, guess what? It still has to make sense to get to where we ended it. This is the ending, and everything has to lead towards that. So I don't think I would want to do that again. I would want to, if you want Star Wars to continue on, never end it. Leave it open that stories can continue on. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be really interested to see what they do with this new movie with Rey. Like, how do you continue that story? Because in a sense, they passed the torch. You ended the legacy characters and you brought in new ones, Rey, Finn, and Poe. Where do you continue with those guys? So in a sense, it maybe is a small reboot of this is Star Wars going forward. I don't know. Maybe I would make it a smoother transition than that.
Right. Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to put an ending on it. I would want to just leave it wide open. Let's expand the galaxy and keep going.
Mm-hmm. No, good points. Good points. Yeah. I think Filoni's got bringing it back to him. I think he's got. I really do think he has actually a tough challenge, and I think
it's a lot. Yeah,
is a lot. There's a lot to do, and I think he. I'm glad he took the role. I'm glad he was offered the role and he took it because I think he's got a lot to worry about now, and hopefully he can prioritize it and not feel overwhelmed and stick with this for a while. And because he's technically fairly young. I mean, I think he's our generation. Obviously, I don't even know how old he is. He might be late 40s, early 50s. I don't know, but I don't think he's quite 50 yet. But so he's got several years still left, and I think he's got time to really establish what he wants to do, and we'll see if it resonates with us fans.
Well, is his position similar to Kevin Feige of the Marvel stuff? That's kind of similar.
Very,
right?
Very true. Yeah, yes, I do think, but although Feige is president of Marvel Studios, I think. Okay. So he has creative people that work for him. So again, that's kind of where I went back to a lot of fans, because technically Kathleen Kennedy is in the position that Kevin Feige's in. But a lot of people argue that Kathleen Kennedy is not a creative person.
No.
She's a great producer.
Yeah. But
she's not a creative person, where Feige is a creative person.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole Infinity Saga is his work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's kind of the difference. Now you have, hopefully in two people now, you have Kevin Feige and two people. You have Kevin Feige and Kathleen and Filoni as together. So that's where I think that lives. But, I think, people have stressed that, they want Kathleen Kennedy out. Well, let's not be mistaken, but she now has made the decision to make him chief operating officer. So she is making good decisions, and I feel like she has made good decisions. Now, has the content that has come out not lived up to the hype sometimes? Yes. I think that's true. And I think that's going to happen no matter what because of how much content you've put out there. You're bound to make some duds, some things that nobody agrees with. But, and Disney right now is facing that Bob Iger's come out and said, we're putting too much out there. We need to focus on quality, not quantity.
Well, and I mean, it's a whole separate topic for another podcast, but I think what Marvel has done, the Infinity Saga was so serious. Like, they took their stories serious. Once that ended, they completely took a 180-degree turn and like, you know what? We're going to just be silly and goofy and try to be funny now. Because everything that's come out from there has just nothing but we're trying to be funny. You look at She-Hulk and the Marvels and Miss Marvel, the TV show, and all of these, like, it's goofy. It has gotten really, really goofy. And that's why I didn't enjoy the Marvels at all. It was just over the top goofy, and the same with other, even DC, like Blue Beetle, and like, gosh, why do you think comic book movies need to be goofy as if they are kids' comic books? Like, that's not what made these things successful. So anyway, that's a whole side tangent, but I think Marvel needs to take a step back, and Star Wars, like you said, has had a good break now, so they can really focus on some of these things. And I hope they look at what has done well and what hasn't done well. And then when they see the things that did well, what made them successful? Why did these things resonate with fans more than the others? Okay, let's focus on that stuff.
Yeah.
And work on that. So Kathleen picking Filoni for this position means that she is taking a look at, the stuff Filoni's given us has done well. And the fans are clamoring for more. So that's a good thing. Maybe I should give him more control. And that's where this kind of thing. So, hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
What's next? Like, when is the next thing coming out for us? Because
I don't know.
We got to see where all this stuff starts from.
Yeah. Some of this, well, again, what's on the docket, what's been on the production slate anyway, has been the third and final season of The Bad Batch.
Yes.
You've got Mando season 4 apparently in the works. You got Ahsoka season 2 in the works. You got Skeleton Crew that got delayed. That was actually supposed to come out by now, but it got delayed.
Yeah.
And you've got Andor season 2, and you've got The Acolyte. So those are things we know about that are, about to be produced or about to come out. So.
Right.
But like I said, Iger from CEO of Disney has come out and said that we're cutting back. We're going to be cutting back on Disney Plus a little bit. We're going to focus on quality, not quantity. So I think you're not going to see as much Star Wars series in the future here, as many. But they got to get back to making the films. They got to get back to putting stuff in theaters.
Yeah, you've brought that up before because it's been a while now.
Yeah, I mean, this summer. Or actually, do you know that this month we were supposed to get Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron movie?
Right.
So we were supposed to get a movie right now, but we haven't, and that means it's been 4 years since we got the Rise of Skywalker. So it's been a long time.
It has, but in comparison to the times that we've waited before, it hasn't been a long time. Like between the original trilogy and the prequels, between the prequels and the sequels.
Yeah.
But
we got 5 movies. But we got 5 movies in 5 years.
Yeah, I know. So we got spoiled a bit. Yeah.
We got spoiled a bit. So.
Yeah.
But all right. Yeah, I think we'll talk more about this at some point because I think, like I said, I think we got to get through this next batch of releases.
Yeah.
Before we really get into what Dave is putting out there and what he's focused on and things like that. So I imagine there's going to be a big, I don't know about like announcement. I think there's going to be, I think you're going to see more interviews with him here soon about the role and about what he's going to focus on and things like that. And, we should be getting some kind of a release schedule here soon too about what's coming next. And the rumors I've seen is that the third season of Bad Batch is actually the first thing we're going to get.
Okay.
And then we'll get The Acolyte, and then we'll get another season of Tales of the Jedi, and then we'll get Skeleton Crew at the end of next year. So that's kind of the slate I've been hearing, and
that's for 2024. Those 4 properties,
And that, which means that Andor has been pushed to 2025.
Yeah.
So Andor, you have season 4 of Mandalorian.
Is that a for sure thing, season 4? Because they were talking about, no, we're going to switch to a movie now.
So there is a movie coming out.
Yeah.
His Filoni's movie, which is going to be more about the Thrawn part. I don't know how much that's going to involve Mandalorian, right. But no, apparently season 4 of Mandalorian was getting written and worked on during the actor strike. Okay. So apparently they're going to go into production next year for season 4.
So let me ask you, I don't know if you've discussed it already on Inside the Force, but there's rumor about season 4 being less and less Mando and more Bo-Katan. Is that where you think it's leaning? Because I'm seeing rumors that Pedro is no longer even involved anymore. He's not ever going to wear the suit again.
Yeah, I have seen that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's tough because the way season 3 ended, it seemed like their story was done.
Yeah.
And it was Bo-Katan. But I think Katie Sackhoff even came out and said, no, the Mandalorian is about Din Djarin.
Yeah.
So it's going to be weird about Pedro if surely he's going to do the voice still.
You would think so.
But he doesn't have to be there. And I guess that means he'll never take his mask off, his helmet off. But
yeah.
But I don't know. I would be okay if they didn't do another season because I think that it kind of ended pretty good. They got the Mandalorians got Mandalore back, and Din Djarin decided he wanted to stick around with Grogu, and they're kind of living in their own piece of land out there. So.
Yeah, it did seem like it could have fade off into the distance. That's it.
Yes, it totally felt like a series ending,
but it's their most successful property of all of them, so of course they need to continue it.
They have to keep going. They need to sell more Grogu dolls.
Now, speaking of Pedro, has he been confirmed to be cast as Mr. Fantastic in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie?
It hasn't been officially announced, but
not official.
That's the lead rumor right now.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Does he look like he could be Mr. Fantastic to you?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know. He's too. He doesn't have the right background. Mr. Fantastic is pretty...
What makes Pedro so, I feel like in a way, what makes him like really attractive, especially to the female audience, is that he's rugged looking and he's not clean shaven. He's got this roughness to him. Reed Richards is he's a billionaire. And
he's a scientist, nerdy, brainiac type of guy,
clean cut kind of guy. I just don't see Pedro being that person.
Very all American too. Pedro still has a bit of that Latin background to him.
True, very true. Yeah.
I don't know.
I just don't think unless he cleans up and shaves his face, and I don't know, it makes him look.
And Mr. Fantastic he's very skinny. He's very elongated too, in a sense.
Yes.
Because he can stretch, but his face is very long and narrow.
Yes.
And Pedro's not that. So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Interesting. I was quite happy with the guy they had at the he guested that. He just had a quick spot at the end of the Doctor Strange movie when they had Mr. Fantastic, they had Professor X, they had Peggy Carter's version of Captain America. They had all of them there. That guy, I can't remember which guy it was. I can't think of the actor's name. He would have been a great Mr. Fantastic. So,
right.
Yeah, I just can't remember his name. But anyway,
yeah.
This is a multiverse discussion, not just Star Wars.
It was tonight. A multiverse discussion. Okay, well that's like I said. I think we'll definitely continue this and see where Dave's creatives go at some point, and we'll have, I'm sure, news from him and what he's doing on all of our shows. Of course, the Mandalore podcast, which we're going to do something here soon.
We'll have one pre-Christmas episode. Yeah.
Oh yeah, as we fill in the gap.
Yeah.
like I said, we more than likely there'll be something coming out sometime early next year, and that's when we'll pick up there. But keep looking at us and finding us on YouTube and the podcast for Inside the Force and this show and Beyond the Saga, which me and Hannah, deep dive in all the stories. We're deep diving into the comics right now that take place during between episodes 5 and 6 right now. So those are really good stories that we're talking about. And then we got some High Republic stuff that we gotta catch up on and talk about. So
yeah, I only read the first novel. I'm behind on that.
Yeah, I'm like 3 novels in or something like that on stuff. Hannah's a lot further than I am. But appreciate Martin having you on here.
Yeah, it's been good. Good discussion tonight. That is one of our longer episodes.
It definitely is a longer council session. So
that's good though. We haven't had a lot to talk about. So
there's a lot to get through there. Absolutely. So
yeah.
Thanks everybody. Have some great holidays coming up. Again, we're going to still be putting out some shows, so come back here and listen up. But thanks for being with us this year. And like I said, have a safe and happy holidays with your families. Thank you so much, Martin.
Hey, may the Christmas Inside the Force be with you.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. We'll see you soon, and take care, everybody. May the Force be with you.